Kagurabachi will be the next change of Shonen. Now, as we all know, two of the three current main pillars of Jump are entering their end. My Hero, by the time this video is out, may even be over. And Jujustu Kaisen is wrapping up before the year's end, as of right now. And with One Piece being the only remaining pillar of what Jump has been representative of for nearly a decade, we we can see a lot of fear from the company, and reluctantly, it seems that they have begun to push a series that they originally did not intend to go more than 20 chapters. Kagurabachi. Kagurabachi has been popular since it started, but we have seen a transition between why it was popular from its beginning to now. When we first got introduced to the series, it was purely popular because it looked generic. If you look at the first pictures that we saw of the series, it did not look interesting. Nobody would care about another guy with a sword that has water powers. We've seen that. One of the most popular ongoing shows right now is about that exact premise for a while. And to see that come back around again was not interesting. And then the first chapter came out, and we all know a very infamous moment from that chapter, which propelled these memes about enough time has passed, as we all know. The pictures, they were all spread over Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all kinds of social. But what changed to make this hype around the series go from false to genuine? I think we can attest this to people who stuck around simply because they thought, if I stick around, I will get more jokes out of this and get more likes, and that'll boost them. But all these people began to feel actually invested in the story, and I would say a lot of that is due to the first major antagonist introduction being Soho. I think his introduction was the turning point of the series for a lot of fans. Most people, when they live tweet or live post about the series, often mention that exact moment around chapter 8 or so when they say, okay, wait, I'm interested in this. And I think that's very important for the series to see that very early on we can see a lot of people say, I'm committed to this, I'm going to keep going. And a singular character's introduction is immediately a strong way of doing that. And Kagurabachi has done that fantastically in that regard. And it's one of my favorite aspects about the early point of the series. But outside of the actual series, I could see another major way that a lot of people have grown attached, and that is the fan base surrounding Kagurabachi. With my experience around the fans of the series so far, I've seen nothing but pure positivity, especially with the brand mascot, practically a specific account on Twitter. They have shown nothing but goodness towards people and only encourage them to check out a series that they enjoy. And that's such a good thing to have for a brand new series. Just have an opening community. I mean, I remember when we thought the series was going to get canceled, and one of the main things we were hoping for was that people would start drawing gay ships of characters because that's how you know something is big. And when that happened, they welcomed them with open arms. And it was such a fun moment to see when you finally got something that you thought could help save it. And eventually the series was saved. And we can thank them, honestly, because getting something like that in brings more of those people because they know that they're welcome into a group like this. And for something like that, I would never see that being what saved a series, but in the end, Kagurabachi was saved by a very strange group, it would seem. Now, if we look at beyond the history, what about it makes of a person care to stay? And I would say that firstly goes down to our main character. Chihiro is very important. The reason I say this about Chihiro's character is because I feel as though his progression so far has been one of the most compelling for an early Jump character. If I look at how a character like Luffy or a character like Yuji or Naruto or any of them have evolved in the first 40 chapters of a series, I don't see a lot of change in them. I can definitely see change, but it's nothing major so far. And I really feel like from what I saw in Chihiro in chapter 1 and Chihiro in chapter 40 are two completely different sides of a character. When we first meet him, I genuinely believed that he was this edgy son of a bitch who was like that exactly. That Sasuke, Megami, that kind of character who doesn't talk, doesn't smile, and he's very serious and stoic. And as we progress, rather quickly, we learn that that's not really who he is. We start peeling back the layers. It's much like a real person. When you first meet a real person, you're not going to see all this introspective stuff about them, but as you learn about them more, you learn more about their inside and who they really are. And I think that's such a great thing for an audience to get out of an early point of a character, to learn who they really are before we can start afflicting a change to the character. And I think that's important for a series like this, which is hopefully going to be running for a long time. But it's not just Chihiro who makes the series great. I would say nearly all of the main cast of characters we've had so far has been very strong. Mr. Shiba, while not being as developed as we've seen with Chihiro, has shown off his interesting ways in his fighting style, his dynamic with Chihiro, and whatever we'll see of him about his past, which I find one of the most interesting, alongside his connections to the modern world of sorcery, was something I was greatly excited to see explored. Alongside him, we also have Char, who's very good for a early character. I love this archetype that she follows, and I hope that she continues to have major importance. She hasn't as much in the Razakage arc, but I hope to see more from her, and I think that we will, and I'm excited for that. Hiyuki was a great introduction of a character. I love her. She's so fantastic so far for the story. Having a rival character, at least I'm assuming that's the path she's going to take so far, is fantastic at this point. I hope they continue to interact. Her fighting style is great. I can't wait to see what she does in the newest chapter, which I'm recording this before 41 releases, so hopefully she pulls off some sick shit and doesn't die, because that would be really bad for this video if I'm hyping up a dead person. Anyways, but also Hakarai is one of the most developed character is probably the most honestly developed character we've seen so far in this series, and I love that for him. He's been such a compelling. We first met him, I'm like, this is going to be like an Usopp character. But I love Usopp. That's the thing. I love him. But I was also thinking like this feels Zenitsu, early Usopp, or there's these little problems that I don't like. But he got over those growing pains very quickly for me, and I've loved his development over this arc, and I hope to see him continue as a main cast member from here on out. But outside of our hero cast, I would say Kagurabachi has had one of the strongest early villain casts out of any series I've had the pleasure of reading. I would say the only thing that can really compare would be Naruto Zabuza and the Land of Waves arc. I would say that's the only thing we can really compare. I feel like a lot of other series have growing pains with their early introduced villains, and Kagurabachi has not struggled with that at all. Soho, the Sazanikan leader, and also the John Hasuka himself have been great. I can't wait to see more from John. Um, the our current arc fight is going fantastic. Even though I feel as though we're wrapping up with his importance, he's been a very good character for the development of others, and I hope he continues to impact the story past his death, much like Soho has. We've seen a lot of his impact from after and during his life, and I feel like that's a very important thing to have for an early villain, to show that there was a reason why this guy was fought. It's much like I feel as though he's taking that Arlong approach, where when we learn more about him in the future, it'll be more important to know why he was the first thing to fall in this domino effect of the story. And that's another thing I love about it so far. It feels like he's seen a lot of what he wants to do, and I hope he has it planned out in enough of a way that feels satisfying from a reader who has read from the start till the end. And now that we've talked about the characters, which I feel are at the core of the story, which any good story should have, though, I want to talk about what really made me a fan. And I would say it's how he panels the story. The pages, the panels, the action, it's so immersive and I love it. There's so much good perspective that you know that he knows what he's doing. It feels like there's a camera in the world that I can just see the perfect angle of every single action. No times do I feel like, oh, this could have looked better if maybe they did something like this. Every time I see an action, I'm like, I'm floored by it. Chapter 40's butterfly, beautiful. Every time Hiyuki is on screen and there's a panel of her, I love it. It's so good. Shiba has been a masterful when it comes to paneling as well, and it really feels like he knows what he's doing. This feels like an action director who knows what he's doing. This feels perfect, and I love that about the series. And alongside that, the art is strong. There's parts of it I don't love. I'm not a big fan of how recently the eyes have been drawn. Otherwise, I think it's fantastic. I think shading is beautiful. The darkness looks great. There's so many good dark colors in this series that I love, especially in comparison to a lot of other series that I feel like are ongoing at this time, which use a lot of just lines, and that really helps it stand out. I feel alongside the other series, and I truly do feel as though Kagurabachi has what it takes to become the next big thing. There's still so much for us to learn. the world is ever developing as we continue to learn about sorcery, what kind of technology the world has. As we recently learned, grenades exist. So where are we? There's flip phones, sorry, and among other things. And it seems maybe cyborgs may be happening in the future of the series. There's so much to explore. The mystical side, I feel we've barely touched into. I remember during the Razakage, we've been seeing skeletons of dead mystical creatures, and I hope to see that further developed. Alongside that, I love the community's theorizing on what Chihiro's father really was like, and I feel like that's going to be such an important thing as it's proven itself in the first arc that this is a main point of the series that what if Chihiro's idealist version of his dad isn't really who he was? And I feel like that's such a strong thing to put a character who has trauma through is realizing that this idealist version they have is the only thing they can cope to may not be who they really are, and it's going to hurt him. As we've seen, just seeing his dad's killer breaks him practically. He snaps when he saw John Hisoka, and that's one of my favorite moments in the series because of that. It really just shows how much we've already grown to these characters and how much of their personality is being shown and how much foreshadowing we have for who they're going to become. That's just some of the reasons why I love this series and I continue to hope it to grow, and I know it's going to take that place as a pillar. While they've stated it that they would like it to, I think we have seen that it has what it takes to become one of the greats. Thank you, and good night, Tri State area.